Welcome to Railways Africa's Coffee with the Editor.
All right, so you are the CEO of Railnet International.
Yes, I am.
Tell me, and for our listeners and audience, who Railnet is and what you guys do.
All right. About 3.5 years ago, we actually had a crazy idea. Actually, it goes back about 15 years ago. But Africa has been a place that does not have efficient transportation overall. And my president called me up and said, "How'd you like to build a railroad in Ghana?" And I said, "Well, tell me something I don't want to do." So we started with Ghana, and the whole idea is we do an FBOT and the government provides the land, and after 30 years, we give it back to them. And it seems to have taken off very well. We're still working with Ghana, and we've also done Mali and Senegal and Guinea Conakry. And I've got a partner up there, and I got a phone call about maybe a month ago, and they wanted to set me up for Zambia, and came in and did this in 10 days. I'm shocked.
Well, I'm pretty shocked too. Okay, so you've mentioned quite a few countries in Africa. More recently, you've also signed an MOU in the Democratic Republic of Congo. What are the details for that railway line?
Well, at this point, they're at a standstill. We signed the MOU, and they haven't done anything about it. We currently have the governors from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and they've written a letter to the president, and it's going to him. I just got the 13 letters that I signed, and they're going to present it to the president and say, "Look, we feel Railnet's a good option there." They basically, my crew met them in Washington, D.C., and they said, "Oh, the Chinese are building it, but they gave us a line that goes from nowhere to nowhere." So it's politics.
Always.
Yes.
All right, so the deal with Zambia. All right, so this comes off what would probably be considered quite a whirlwind, done in record time.
Yes.
And it's concluded with the Ministry of Transport.
Yes.
And what's involved?
All right, we're currently going to build them a standard gauge line north-south about 1,000 kilometers. And we've also been in contact with the ambassador from Mozambique. Zimbabwe is interested, and apparently Namibia is interested too. So we've got the feasibility study prepared, and we've actually got the contract with the group. I told them yesterday that we would agree to their terms, and they'll come up after we pay them the initial cost, and they'll start the feasibility study. But it's a standard gauge railroad which would run basically north-south from Livingston up into the Copperbelt.
All right, and estimated start of construction is the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, if we sign the concession this summer, we can bring all our supplies in, and we'll probably bring them in through Tanzania because they have rail access to that port. And we can start construction. We'll do the engineering, but when you're building a standard gauge system, it's totally different than the Cape gauge. It goes down about 1.3 meters. We're using concrete ties, a Rima 136-pound rail. It's basically a North American style freight railroad. That's what it is.
And somewhere I've noticed in some of the news coverage that I have read the mention of high speed.
Well, okay. High speed is catch-all. High speed is normally 200 kph and up. We're doing a higher speed railroad. The freight trains that run at 80 and possibly the passenger trains at 100, but that's it. The track construction will handle a 100-mile-an-hour train. That's no big deal. And that's like 160 kph, which is not that bad.
All right, so the line...
It's a game changer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the line will also service the mining sector, so I'm assuming it'll be, how do they term it, heavy haul ready?
We could actually have the ability to run 20,000 ton trains, which is like a 200 car train. EMD locomotives, EMD their supplier, I believe Core Mineral will supply the rail. We'll build the ties locally here, but they actually they're heavy ties. They need a 7,000 pound per square inch compression ratio. These things are monsters. And hopefully we'll build the line down into Mozambique through Zambia, or Zimbabwe, excuse me, so it would give us access to a port. And we would run double stack trains coming up from the ships.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question, was double stack trains.
Double stack container ships.
Yeah. So from a feasibility perspective, and I'm sure you have done some initial feasibility to ensure the investment that you're making, what is the potential tonnages on this line?
Well, in reality, if we start hauling, they told me when I was down visiting the Zambia railways that they only hold 10,000 tons of coal in a month. And I said we could do it in one train in one day.
Yeah.
But copper is the main export here. If we could load up a 20,000 ton train, all we need to do is basically move 100 million tons a year. And we'll make the money back in and pay the loan back. And then 30 years, I'm 58 now. So, in 30 years, I'll have one foot in the grave. I'll give it back to the country, and hopefully we can expand it. 1,000 kilometers looks like 3,500 at this point. We're willing to talk with anybody, and, we want to get this whole thing done. The passenger trains will be nice. The freight trains will be nice. You basically won't be able to tell if you're in South Bend, Indiana, or you're in Lusaka, Zambia. It would be a really nice game changer.
All right, so let's just talk about, so a Sense announcement came out of China Rail last week talking about the fact that they would be upgrading some of Zambia Railway's current infrastructure. And I see, based on a report out of Reuters, that you'd also be dealing with some of their existing infrastructure. I'm not quite sure how this all works.
Well, they do have existing infrastructure. They have a very large bridge south of Lusaka here. We'd have to dual gauge that. But, apparently it's a 50-meter right-of-way, which is about 160, 170 feet. We do have enough room to build a standard gauge line, and the government said they'll work on allowing us to straighten out the curves. But, we could run a passenger train from Livingston to Lusaka like 4.5 hours, and I think currently it takes like 20.
If it's running at all.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it. I've seen a couple of the freight trains here. I absolutely love the shops. The shops are going to be very easy to convert to standard gauge. We just got to put down the tracks and raise the doors. But they are an EMD shop. And going from 645 to 710 engines is not going to be a problem with them, and all the mechanics and everybody knows the EMD product.
So EMD being Progress Rail.
Yeah, Progress Rail. I've always had some love for them, and I was out at EMD about 5 years ago, and they make a beautiful product. And the SD70 is different; it's microprocessor, computer controlled. But we'll order it, and then they've actually got the F125, which is a higher speed locomotive, and we'd probably buy that for our passenger service. But and we'd also buy NS Eco rebuilds, and they'd all be Tier 3 compliant.
And emission friendly and all of those good things.
Yeah, it's the technical part of it.
Absolutely. So, from the date that you start constructing, how long till you open the line?
Let's see, 1,000 kilometers. If we build it, we're talking 2 years, and we'll use the Harsco NTC to build it. On 2 shifts, you could do minimum 3 kilometers a day. So in reality, it'd probably take us a little over a year, but that's in a perfect world. Things don't always work that way, so we're allowing to.
All right, and then let's just talk about some of the other aspects of the network. So from signaling, scheduling, that kind of stuff.
All right. Currently, we have a 9-channel cab signal control system with automatic train stop and a pro-train warning. It's like a step or two below PTC, but without the GPS. And it also costs a lot less to install than PTC.
All right, but will be functional for for use in Africa.
Oh, yeah, actually, all we'd have to do, I mean, the locomotives are plug and play. You tell them what electronics you want in and they install them. These locomotives are also $5 to $6 million a piece, and the passenger locomotives are up to $10 million a piece.
Okay, so this is all round quite a heavy investment. Some of the figures that I've seen quoted are $11 billion US.
That's just to start.
That's just to start. Okay. And then there's a concession agreement as you mentioned, so you will build, operate, and then eventually transfer.
Yeah.
What is your expected outcome of this contract?
Well, I mean, this whole thing came as a surprise, but when you're talking about building in one country and then a second one wants to come on board and a third one wants to come on board, 5,000 kilometers is like Portland, Maine to Seattle, Washington. It's home. And you're reconnecting.
Oh dear.
Oh, come on. All right, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically across the northern tier of the United States, and then. And then we've also got the Mali cluster, which is approximately 8,000 kilometers. And then we got the Ghana system, which is like 1,000 kilometers to start. And then when you throw the DRC, you're talking like 25,000 kilometers. It's a heavy undertaking, but my engineer is from Cape Town, South Africa, and he's got a pool of about 2,000 people, and I think he's the best. He worked in Saudi. He did the Ghana Rail feasibility study. We've got people from all over the world on his team.
Fantastic. So what is the length of line that you mentioned in DRC?
I think it was about 6,000 kilometers.
Okay. That's quite...
It's all along the southern tier, and they said if you get it done, you got the whole country, which is like 17,000 kilometers. We're a startup company, but in reality, I've got a group of people that have worked for the railroad for 25, 30 years, and we got like 400, 500, 600 years experience. And in the United States, they're always taking companies apart and forming new ones.
Yeah.
And I think we have a good way to get it done.
Yeah. So in your opinion, just looking at rail in Africa and the opportunities that are present, where do you feel the next kind of boom is going to be from a railway development perspective?
Well, I mean, actually, people are referring to me as the new Cecil Rhodes. I appreciate that. I don't know if we'll build a Cape to Cairo railway. Our company just wants to build something that is needed and it's necessary, and we want to leave a legacy. That's all we want to do. We would be considered a liberal U.S. corporation. We're going to hire 95% of our people from Africa, train them in the operation of the railroad, and when we leave here, it'll be a totally African-run system. And I mean, I understand the Chinese like to bring in the Chinese, and we're doing it FBOT. Provide the land, we'll build the system, we pay back the loan, and everybody's happy. I mean, like I said, in a perfect world, it works well.
Yes. So the railway lines that you're talking about building, they kind of fit quite nicely in terms of the Agenda 2063 and the Africa that we want, and specifically connecting some of the high-speed networks in terms of the African high-speed railway network.
Yeah. You see, the population around here does not justify a high-speed rail. There are only 18 million people in Zambia alone. You can't build a high-speed system and expect it to pay for it. But I mean, we're building them what was built in the United States. It's a railroad. It hauls freight. It hauls passengers. But it's put to 21st century technology. And, I mean, a single-track railroad with passing sidings, that works fine to start. And then as the Cape Gauge peters out, we abandon that, but then we have room to build a second track.
No, absolutely.
So, I mean, Yeah, that works out well with us. And I'm sorry, there's a parade outside my hotel. It's been going on for 3 hours, and it's 95% women. It's National Women's Day here, so
Yes.
it's kind of sort of neat. But no, and I mean, but we're going to hire local people. I've talked to multiple people here. I've gotten friended on Facebook and Messenger, and a lot of people need jobs. But you have an awful lot of talent, but they don't have the ability to work. And like I said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to hire locals. And I mean, we only have like 800 people total. And considering here, we probably hire 5,000 to start off. We'll taper it down. It works out well for us. And we don't want to come in and say, this is the way you run a railroad. We want to teach them. Everybody will go through Railroading 101, basically. And say, this is the new system we're building.
Yeah. Okay, so you've ticked all the boxes: job creation, movement of freight, unlocking the mining sector and the value that can be found there, buying rolling stock. Would you not consider leasing some of the rolling stock?
Well, in the United States, with their precision railroading, and the traffic is actually down with the coronavirus. The traffic is down. They have multiple freight cars available for sale. They're 50-year freight cars. I mean, if they've only been operating for 10 years, they still got a 40-year lifespan. Yeah. And the price is a lot less. And I mean, there are hopper cars, there are gondola cars, there are tank cars, there's covered hoppers. And judging from my trip up north the other day, this reminds me of the Midwest. You have nothing but corn, you got maize, you got everything. It looks like a perfect growing region for everything, and we can haul that all by rail.
Yes. All right, so we're talking about ticking boxes, local employment. So we get to the supply, Progress Rail for the locomotives or the rolling stock. You said ArcelorMittal for the track.
Yeah, then for the freight cars, Trinity and Greenbrier, that's not going to be a problem. And Bombardier for the passenger equipment, and then Brandt for the work trucks, and then we'll also use Kershaw for the MOW equipment.
Okay, and then in building all of this and putting in all of this locomotive, all the rolling stock and stuff like that, you're obviously going to need depots and maintenance facilities.
Well, and when we were up at the Zambia Railway facility, it's a godsend. I mean, they've got these massive shops, and we just got to raise the doors. That's it. I mean, the passenger cars are like 18 feet tall. And I know everyone uses metric over here, but I go back and forth. The locomotives are 65 feet in length. They're 10 feet 6 inches wide. They're like 14 feet tall. And they have 4,300 horsepower. These things are a beast. They're beautiful pieces of equipment. And if we buy 50, they have 21 currently. I think it would be a game changer. And then as we expand into different countries, we could actually buy more. And that will keep the U.S. rail industry ticking for at least another 20 years.
No, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So is there anything else you want to add?
I really can't think of anything. I did want to say thank you so much for this interview. It was fun. I'm sorry we couldn't get the Zoom going on, but anytime you want to get a hold of me, things are happening real quick. My understanding is at the end of this week, I'll be in Mozambique and add them to the whole process. So it's going from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000. And my crew is actually ready. And if we put 5 crews working on it, that would be like 1,000 people.
That'd be amazing. Absolutely amazing, and something that's so needed in our climate at the moment from a job creation perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, we can get down to Johannesburg and Pretoria and then transfer to the Cape Gauge system. I mean, South Africa is a guru with Cape Gauge. I mean, they've actually hauled 70,000 ton trains. I mean, that's fantastic. That's what we haul in the North America. So,
yes.
All right, but anyway, thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.